This video is carefully based on reliable historical sources and original documents that describe the French intervention in Mexico, particularly the Battle of Tlapacoyan. Among the main references consulted are La Campagne du Mexique 1861–1867 by General Charles de Lorenzez, a French military chronicle detailing the operations of the Imperial Army on Mexican territory. Official reports and correspondence from Austrian officers stationed in Mexico, preserved in the Austrian military archives, Kriegsarchiv, which describe the Republican resistance and the difficulties faced by the imperial troops. Documents from the Veracruz Historical Archive, including civilian and military accounts of the defense of Tlapacoyan and the participation of Colonel Manuel A. Ferrer. These sources allow for the reconstruction of a faithful and rigorous narrative, showing the real context and the valor of those who defended their land against a foreign empire. Many know of Mexico's great battles, Puebla, Chapultepec, the Alamo. But few have heard of a small town nestled in the Veracruz Mountains that, in 1865, became the final stronghold of honor against an empire that seemed unstoppable. This is the story of Tlapacoyan, and the day its people chose not to surrender. Tlapacoyan was a quiet place, coffee fields, misty hills, and a plaza that came alive each morning. It was home to hard-working, humble people. But that year, war arrived. From the garrison in Perot came the imperial forces, French, Austrian, and Mexican conservatives. The road to the Gulf passed through that town. And they wanted it. Leading the defense was Colonel Manuel A. Ferrer. He didn't have many men, barely 60 soldiers from the Lave Light Battalion. But he had something stronger, the will of the people. So, with picks, shovels, and machetes, the people of Tlapacoyan built their defenses. 8 trenches encircled the town. Children carried sacks of dirt, women ground gunpowder using stone mortars, and the elderly kept watch from rooftops. When the Imperials tried to retake the town in August, they were repelled by armed men and women pouring boiling oil from windows. Each day brought more volunteers, farmers, muleteers, schoolteachers. Tlapacoyan became a fortress. And a family. In household corridors, improvised uniforms were sewn. Maize, firewood, and medicine were shared. Ammunition was scarce, but the will to fight was not. On November 17, the storm arrived. Over 2,500 Imperial soldiers surrounded the town. Colonel Ferrer had just 500 defenders. But not one spoke of fleeing. From the hills of Alto Tonga, enemy cannons pointed directly at the heart of Tlapacoyan. The trenches were ready: Texcatl, El Arenal, Itzapa, Zapote, El Salto del Conejo, La Horqueta, El Penascal, and the Central Plaza. Each one guarded by neighbors, soldiers, friends. Ferrer walked between them at night, offering words of courage. The air was thick with tension, as if even the mist knew what was coming. On November 22, at exactly 6 o'clock, the cannons opened fire. Texcatl was the first target. Earth and fire rained down upon the defenders. Ferrer stood his ground. He gave orders, lent aid, even treated the wounded. But a bullet struck him in the forehead. He fell. And with him fell Rojano, Mejia, Ortega, and dozens more. Many died wielding makeshift weapons. Others resisted with nothing but their bodies and their spirit. The village was blanketed in smoke, blood, and raw courage. Children hid beneath tables, listening to the thunder of battle, while their mothers held back tears. No one was safe, but no one thought of surrender. By day's end, the central plaza was in flames. 268 residents of Tlapacoyan had died. Over 80 were wounded. Nearly all the rest were captured. Yet the Imperials did not celebrate. The village lay in ruins, but in every corner echoed what had been done there. An Austrian officer, upon seeing Ferrer's body, removed his hat in silence, a gesture of respect for the bravery of those men and women. The ground was covered in ash, but also in memory. In the days that followed, a few survivors who managed to escape told the whole story. Tlapacoyan became a symbol. For years later, in 1869, Tlapacoyan was officially granted the title heroic by decree of the Congress of the state of Veracruz. The motion was proposed by liberal legislators who were well aware of the sacrifice made in that battle. The civilian courage, the strength of their resistance, and the sacrifice of Colonel Ferrer, whose death became an emblem of the Republican struggle, were formally recognized. In the area of El Arenal, a memorial was erected. Engraved upon it, a phrase that still echoes through the mountains. They defended their homeland as loyal patriots, and in falling, they became immortal. Years later, surviving veterans were honored in civic ceremonies. Their names were inscribed on bronze plaques placed in schools and public buildings. In the 20th century, historians recovered military reports, letters, and wartime documents from imperial officers that described the Battle of Tlapacoyan as one of the fiercest encounters in all of Veracruz. French military archives referred to the resistance as unusually ferocious for such a small village, while an Austrian report stated that the defenders fought with desperate dignity until their last breath. In recent decades, the memory of the battle has only grown stronger. Every November 22, the people of Tlapacoyan commemorate their martyrs with civic ceremonies, historical reenactments, and dramatic readings of Ferrer's sacrifice. Schools, streets, and plazas now bear the names of those who fought. And at the heart of the town, the story is still told of how one corner of Veracruz refused to fall without leaving a mark. This is the story of a town that refused to surrender. Of a colonel who died standing tall. And of a battle that, though lost in numbers, was won in dignity. Today, when the wind rustles through the coffee fields, some say you can still hear a distant cry. Long live the Republic! When the flames of battle finally died down in Tlapacoyan, the war in Mexico was only beginning to turn its course. The heroic defense of that small town was not just a local act of bravery, but a symbol that resonated throughout the entire country, igniting the spark of resistance against foreign domination. In 1865, the French Empire under Napoleon III still controlled large parts of Mexican territory, supported by Mexican conservatives and Austrian troops. But the Republican resistance, led by Benito Juárez, was growing stronger in the north and southeast. Tlapacoyan was the last trench that kept the flame of hope alive in Veracruz, a key state due to its access to the Gulf and its trade routes. The Battle of Tlapacoyan was a tangible demonstration of the wear and desperation of the Imperial Army. Facing a small but determined enemy, the Imperial forces suffered casualties that weakened their morale. The sacrifice of Colonel Manuel A. Ferrer and his defenders became a benchmark of unyielding courage for the Republican soldiers and for the civilian population enduring the weight of occupation. Meanwhile, as the Franco-Prussian War approached its climax in 1870 in Europe, forcing France to withdraw a large part of its troops from Mexico, the news of Tlapacoyan's heroism spread quickly, inspiring even the imperial combatants themselves to reconsider the brutality of the conflict. Contemporary documents reveal that Austrian officers expressed admiration for the dignity and resistance of that small town, something unusual in times of war. The legacy of Tlapacoyan extended beyond dates and maps. In the heart of Veracruz and in the soul of the Mexican people, there remained the certainty that dignity and just struggle can challenge empires. This battle became a fundamental chapter in the recovery of the national territory and in the definitive defeat of the Second Mexican Empire in 1867. Today, as one travels through the mountains and coffee plantations of Veracruz, the memory of Tlapacoyan remains alive, not only in monuments and ceremonies, but in the spirit of a people who never accepted defeat. Its story is an eternal reminder that even in the darkest moments, courage and unity can forge freedom.